Making music, connecting with your community, not plugging into the TV or the stereo, but just like connecting with, it's like you're connecting with the past and being in the present moment at the same time. My guitar company is called Preservation Guitar Company, and the word preservation to me means not just like museum artifacts, but it means like preserving some of the techniques, building techniques and aesthetics that were so great in the early 1900s. So that's a lot of where my philosophy comes from. And then the other part of that is just trying to use a lot of mostly domestic woods, and so I use a lot of white oak and walnut and maple and poplar and red spruce and just these really great woods that are, can be harvested locally in the U.S. And they're really great tone woods.
And they sound great.
They sound great. And almost, all of those woods were used in the early 1900s as well.
Yeah.
And they just kind of fell out of favor for these exotic woods.
Right.
So I want to bring those back.
And do you build mostly ladder brace?
I build mostly ladder-braced parlor-sized guitars, 12 frets to the body.
Yeah.
And occasionally I'll build a bigger guitar. I build custom guitars, so it has to be a guitar that fits into my style, what I want to build.
Right.
But I have built X-brace guitars and
Right.
14 fret to the neck guitars. My method is just guitars that are built lightly, thin hot hide glue, and using thinner wood and lightly carved braces or heavily carved braces. To me, that's what makes the best sounding guitar. That's what they were doing in like the 20s and 30s, and since then people have gotten more into thicker woods and thicker glues, and it makes it so you can offer a lifetime warranty,
right.
But it doesn't sound as good to me.
Doesn't sound as good, right?
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember a long time ago? There were two little babes, their names I don't know. They went walking along on a long summer's day. They got lost in the woods, I've heard people say. And when it was night, how sad was
tell me a little bit, how did you get into playing music?
I really started playing old-time music when I was 18, and it was really I just had friends that played old-time. They were starting to get into old-time music, and I wanted to hang out with them. So that
Where was this?
It was in Bellingham, Washington.
Oh, okay.
It was really great to start playing music with other people who were also just starting out, because we were all kind of learning together. And I started with the washtub bass, which was it was actually a perfect instrument to start out on, because I had to learn by ear, and I learned a lot of basics about chord structures and like patterns of old-time tunes, and then from there learning guitar was a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. And so you were playing with people your own age, even though there is a broader community around there, isn't there, of old-time players?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were definitely a lot of people I played with that were a lot older than I was. There's a really nice community with jams and square dances, and yeah.
Cool. And then when did the guitar happen?
I think I started with banjo first, and I had a little bit of intimidation with how many good banjo players there were. There's a lot of great guitar players too, but guitar just seems like everybody's always looking for a good guitar player.
Yeah.
So I switched to guitar and really settled in with that, and then later I took up banjo again.
And how did you go about learning backup guitar? Did you listen to records? Did you have particular models that you were interested in?
I would listen to cassette tapes with earphones in and just play along, which I think I always try to suggest that to people, and I think that sounds really tedious and boring to them, but I thought it was great.
It's fun.
Yeah. I was very happy to just play one chord, over and over again, and yeah.
That's cool. And obviously you got good because you're pretty in demand. It is true, it's hard to find a good backup guitar player.
Yeah, I think probably being satisfied with just playing one chord over and over again is helpful, because a lot of times it seems like guitar players, they just want to do more,
Right.
Which doesn't really usually work with old-time music.
Right. And so what do you like to pay attention to when you're playing backup guitar?
I just think, rhythm is the utmost importance. And I do like adding in a lot of bass runs now, but I like to have them be kind of repetitive and match the music a little bit and not be too flashy.
Right. And were there particular guitarists that you were really into?
Yeah, definitely. See if I can think of some names. Yeah,
Bands?
I mean, like, now I really like the guitar players for some of the Mississippi bands from like the 30s, like the Red Fox Chasers and what's that band I'm thinking of? The Leake County Revelers.
Okay.
Their guitar player is really great.
Okay.
And, sometimes a lot of those, like, real old-time guitar players, they do a little bit unusual bass runs than modern players do today, which I really like. Or, like Ernest Stoneman, kind of the boom, chuck, chuck, chuck.
Right.
Just adding in some of that kind of older flavor.
Right. Yeah. I think there was a lot more variety back then than people often play today.
Yeah, I really feel like, guitar is not that old of an instrument, and in the early 1900s, that was like its heyday. That's when like guitars were cheap to buy, and all of that old-time music, blues music was really booming, and there was a lot of innovation then. Yeah. And I mean, that can keep going, but I really love the innovation that was created in the 20s and 30s at the, when recorded music was happening. And so when I want to learn new things, that's where I go as a resource.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And then when did you start building guitars?
I started building guitars in 2012. I had a really lovely parlor guitar. It was a C. Bruno, beautiful, mint condition parlor guitar from the early 1900s, and it got stolen.
Oh.
It got stolen in like 2008,
Okay.
and I couldn't afford to buy a guitar as nice as that. So somebody gave me a broken guitar and said, "Here, you can fix it."
Also an old parlor or something.
It was an old parlor. It was like an old Sears and Roebuck
Okay.
parlor with a broken top, and so I ended up replacing the top, which was kind of a big leap into instrument repair.
Sure.
But it was stressful at the time. I just wanted a guitar to play. But later on, I realized, hey, that could be fun if it wasn't in such a stressful situation. So I kind of tinkered with guitar repair for a couple of years, and then in 2012 I did an apprenticeship with Todd Cambio of
Right.
Fraulini Guitars
Yeah.
in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I was initially thinking I would just learn more about repair, but I really fell in love with building from scratch because it allowed me to be a little more creative, and so I've been building guitars since then.